Welcome to Disability Empowerment Now, pre-season 5, a season of healing. I'm your host, Keith Murphy DiConcini. Today I have with me my very good friend and colleague, Lindsey Steele. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. I am so excited to be here and honored and touched that you've chosen to speak with me today.
So let's get how we met out of the way, because that's always fun, particularly how we met at Meadows Behavioral Health Rehab Center, what I affectionately refer to as a mental health retreat, because that's basically what we did. And I've been doing meditation retreats for over 20 years. And so it was very easy, very seamless for my mind to function and to conceptualize my 45-day stay there, which is a lot of time to put your life on hold, meaning your complete life on hold. No
100.
electronics, no nothing. Uh, for electronics, I had to give up my Apple Watch and get on a digital watch again. Uh, they gave us a pager, which was used to um, get medical alerts and whatnot. They tracked us. They gave us somehow a waterproof Bluetooth wristband that only went like 12 feet. That was the extent of the electronics
Mhm.
there. I have on Life is Better with a Dog uh, t shirt because that's a fact of life. Sorry to all my cat fans out there. But the reason why I bring that up is because it was really the death of my dog in the most traumatic way to really destroy me and really propel me into the meadows. Not fast enough, mind you, but that's my story and what brought me to the meadows. What do you do for work and what brought you to the meadows? And what was your first impression of me? I always like to put my guests on the spot. You can answer that last question if you want or not. I'm not sure how I would answer it if someone asked me that, but again, I'm not you.
I appreciate that. I affectionately also called it a mental health wellness
Yeah.
retreat. It's how I kind of wrapped my head around that. It was the first time I have done an inpatient facility, much like yourself. I have found several retreats, mainly through writing. And things like that over the years, but again, they were places I'd go to during the day or places that I would go to on the water and things like
And
that. speak.
And the Meadows did allow us to write
Yes, they did.
and smoke,
Yeah. Yep.
which is a odd combination. I just had to say that it was very odd, but
Well, a
continue.
lot of us who write smoke. It's still a thing. It's not just gone with the 70s and 60s. But
Damn.
I know.
If
Um,
I was president, I would outlaw smoking, and then a week later, I would be assassinated. It would be the shortest presidency in the history of this country. It always makes me laugh because it's so bloody absurd. But
yeah.
go on.
So yes, for me it was the first time that I had chosen to do a fully inpatient facility, and it did come fairly highly recommended. I love the sunshine, seeing as I'm from Seattle, so that part was pretty much a no-brainer to go down to Arizona and be warm. Um, like you, I did
Yeah,
30 days due to my profession. I was not able to do the entire 45 days of their program, but I feel really good about the 30 days that
yeah,
I did do. Um, for reasons that brought me there, compound trauma,
yeah.
certainly, or my lifespan, but again, kind of going into what I do for work. I work in King County on a mobile crisis team as a mental health practitioner, case
Oh,
manager. And so it's, an epidemic, obviously, as we all know, the nation
yeah.
is going through a co occurring substance use and mental health.
Ever since Columbine,
Mhm.
people have been suffering, and then COVID just blew everyone's heads off. I
Yeah.
mean, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
No, COVID absolutely exacerbated crisis. A crisis
And
became a crisis on crack during COVID.
yeah,
Um,
and it's interesting that your crisis management specialties, because besides my psychiatrist who recommended Meadows, it was the crisis management specialist who helped me when I broke down,
mhm.
who also recommended Meadows very highly because she had gone there 10 years prior. And
Okay.
that blew my mind
Mhm.
sky high. Both of them are women, so that that's that
Crisis, yeah, crisis is a own beast in mental health. I say that just because, we don't usually have the knowledge or the preview of to the events in people's lives that bring us to the immediate scene. We're dispatched through 988 and the local law enforcement community. And so it's ideal when you work with people, and I have for longer term, 2 years, things like that. But crisis in and of itself is you are really just getting a very, very small glimpse of someone's imminent crisis at that moment.
you're
And
getting a small glimpse of them at their worst point or often worst point. And like Karen said, the crisis management specialists who I actually started this series with.
mm,
It was very, very important for me to reconnect with her. And she said, we have to build rapport with people fast.
yeah,
Like fast, fast, fast. How do you do that with meeting people at their worst when
Well, it's
they're
really
not
important.
functioning?
Yeah, it is important to keep in mind, right, that when people are in crisis, they're not operating, in their prefrontal cortex, right? They're not operating in there. So you do have to take things like that into consideration. Crisis itself can only last and peak at 11 minutes. So you can't actually remain in that full blown,
Wait,
complete.
say that again. And do how did that get studied? I mean,
I'm
that's
not a doctor,
true.
so I don't know how they studied that, but basically 11 and 17 minutes is that window of peak. And I'm saying
Wow,
peak,
wow.
peak
Okay,
crisis. It's not to say your crisis isn't building up to that for several days or even months or years. And it's not saying the post crisis itself doesn't need care for several days, weeks, months, or years. But the actual body, physiology wise, cannot handle that peak crisis mode and operate there for more than 17 minutes. So,
wow.
knowing that, a lot of times you have the opportunity to, yes, get the glimpse of those moments, but you're really also there to see the post crisis through. And I think the post crisis is what is where you kind of start to mesh what you're talking about, that building
Okay.
rapport, that building of trust, that building of um, you know offering support and being able to guide gently into those next decisions. And coming from a harm reduction standpoint, which in trauma informed care hopefully everybody in this industry is doing, that's really important, right? And so the rapport itself, I say to a lot of people, it comes a lot more natural, I think, to some people than others. Myself, I was a bartender for 20 years before I went into crisis work. So building rapport was not something that I was unaccustomed to, or meeting people where they're at.
Wait, wait. That just blows my mind that you almost like I'm getting emotional here I that you tended bar for 20 years. What the hell? How did you do that? What brought you back and back and back and back year after year to bartending?
A series of very poor decisions is what mainly kept me going for 20 years. I originally started, yes, at 18, and it was easy money. It was fast money. I worked part-time for full-time money. It allotted me a lot of time to travel, a lot of time to spend time with friends. And then when I found out, and I stayed too long, and then when I got pregnant, it allotted me to be able to work when my son slept. It allotted me to be able to go to school during the day,
Nice.
education. And I think that that's kind of where it really, you know, kind of took off, was just
Yeah.
um, for those reasons, like accessibility, financial accessibility very quickly.
So So, what led you to crisis management? Because I don't know if you know this, I may be blowing your mind right now. No, I'm not, ladies and gentlemen. But tending bar and crisis management is like starting as being a professional runner and then switching to being a neurologist. It does not make sense.
You'd be surprised, actually, at all the
Really?
crossovers that are there. Again, working with, people in addiction, working with people in active addiction,
Oh, yeah.
listening to, stories of one's life, or life challenges. I mean, hurting drunk people are like hurting drunk kittens, which is kind of what I do out on the streets a lot of the time, chasing people down, trying to find them and locate them.
Wow.
um, Again, the crossover is astonishingly similar. So it's not quite so far left field for me, but I think it was easy for me to do because it was my own traumas, it was my own grief, it was my
Yeah.
own substance use, it was things like that got me into the curiosity of my field, and what I do. And then, yeah, I think being able to work with people as peers, work with people as humans, and find
Yeah.
that denominator is how you do build rapport and trust, and how you do ultimately, people in true crisis, and again, this is just
Yeah.
my professional opinion, but people who are in true crisis don't see gender, they don't see sexuality,
Yeah.
they don't see ethnicity, they don't see age, they don't see, they see purple Martians for all I know. I mean, if you're in crisis, you just want support. You really
Yeah.
don't, you're not dictating who it comes from or what they're. If you start to ask me in a crisis what my education is, what my background is, where I things like that, I'm like, okay, now we're actually not in crisis anymore here.
Yeah.
You want my resume, which is a very different thing, and I'm happy to give it to you,
Yeah.
but that's not a crisis move. That's not a
So,
crisis.
oh, sorry. I'm just trying to get back to the meadows.
Oh,
And, uh,
sorry. Yes.
no.
So
Well,
I had my own series of traumas happen over the years, and for me in my mental health, the easiest way for me to get out of my head is to be of service to others. And I still very strongly believe that to be true for a lot of people. But it does have a cost, right? There's a cost
yeah.
analysis basis at the end of the day of how much you give out and how much you give away. And having healthy boundaries and self-care and things like
Yeah.
that are really important. But I had kind of let mine slip, to be honest with you. And so I just saw a need for my own support and my own healing and my own break from what I do to take care of myself and get realigned with my ethics and my values and my cores and belief systems, and be able to really give the community my best self.
So, uh, you came to the meadows much like I did because I'd slept several times and I could no longer function. As I said in an episode yesterday, it was that I recorded yesterday. It was a make or break moment that I didn't see any way forward. I After my dog died, I completely redesigned my house. I live in a mini art gallery now. You can thank my mother for that.
I do think her art's beautiful.
She studied art history, but when I went to bed one night and I was like, and I'm getting really emotional here. When when I felt unsafe in my own home, not like I was going to do anything self harm wise. I just felt like the house I redecorated by myself was passing judgment on me. And it was the most weirdest thing ever. And I was like, okay, if I wake up tomorrow, which was a Saturday, and still feel that way, I will tell my parents over Zoom that I'm finally ready to go to the meadows. And that happened exactly as you would have expected it to. There, I wasn't well. I had lost my passion,
Mhm.
which is this. I love interviewing people and getting to know what makes them tick.
Right.
And when I couldn't do that, which is my bread and butter, then I know it's time to go.
Well,
And
interesting you touching on that, Keith, because
yeah,
I think that that's a part of what COVID did, right? Is we
oh
lost
yeah,
connection. And
yes,
human
we
connection
did.
is a very basic, fundamental human need for everyone. I
No
mean,
man is an island.
right.
We are very social creatures. I had underestimated or not even known
Hmm.
how much of a emotional salve my dog had been for almost a decade.
Right.
Uh, she saw me through breakups. She saw me through lo- large jobs, large friends.
Right.
She saw me through it all, and she really buffered a lot
Hmm.
of my worst tendencies and enabled me to more than tolerate my parents, who I adored.
Right.
The the meadows, for all the faults it has, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I also said that on a episode I recorded yesterday. Uh, we had famously failed, like rock hard
Hmm.
failed.
Hmm.
Every family therapy before the meadows and family week, which for me came after survivors week, which was a very interesting experience because I got to get really angry. I mean, really, really, really no holds barred angry. And I got praised for it
Hmm.
by the therapists and by every single one of my peers. And that will always blow my fucking mind because it's these are happy tears
Yeah.
coming down because it was very cathartic. And then family week was the next week, and that was the week where my dad turned 92.
Okay.
Uh, and and the family therapist, Lee Rollins, I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, somehow worked her professional magic and reconnected
Hmm.
my family, my parents, particularly my mother, who I've had a very antagonistic relationship with for years
Mhm.
and years and years. And somehow, within the span of 7 days, that didn't all evaporate because it never does. We'd still have disagreements, but we are able to hold space for each other without getting offended or hurt, to use a very weird phrase nowadays. Uh,
Well, but that's
but
a good therapist, right? Is
yeah,
when you are able to be opened and to be as vulnerable and to be as raw
yeah,
as having emotions of anger, which I personally also have never connected fully with, particularly because for, especially for women, it's considered a very unattractive emotion.
well,
So
I
when you
think it's,
when you get
uh,
into those, feelings, though, when you get onto that deep level of those feelings and those emotions, and you're in a safe place with a very good, important, imperative here,
yeah,
trauma therapist, to be able to then
yeah,
connect, close some of the wounds enough to be able to reconnect you with the
yeah,
people in your life that you are having those feelings for, in
yeah,
a healthy way, to set up boundaries moving forward in your relationships with them. That's an amazing thing to bear witness to. That's a
yeah.
that's an amazing thing to bear witness to.
Yeah, I love the line in Avengers that Bruce Banner said to Captain America when Captain said, "Why aren't you angry, Bruce, while they're being attacked?"
Right.
And Bruce Banner turns to him and says, "That's just it, Cap. I'm always angry." And that line, oh my God, that line in the original Avengers made me feel so fucking seen because I I had been that way. I mean, I was a fucking angry prick. I mean, guys, if you think about a circular circle, a cycle, and I'm borrowing from a book called A Man's Way Through the 12 Steps, anger and depression are the two main emotions that men have. Because when they push people away, they get angry. And that leads to depression. And on and on and on. But you're right. For women, it is a very different ball game, to use a very weird analogy. But yeah, it's unattractive when basically, and I think we both know that anger is a very misunderstood emotion.
100%.
It is basically a self protective emotion, just like the fight or flight
Absolutely.
response.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if anger, if anger had feelings and could express them, anger would get would always be pissed off
Yeah.
at being identified,
Absolutely.
vilified,
Yep.
and demonized
Yep.
to the nth degree. I mean, to be compared to drinking poison,
Hmm.
which is a okay, uh, great metaphor or whatever, but factually, it's untrue because if you manage anger effectively, then it's really a okay emotion. I mean, the the reason we have very complex and antagonistic relationship with anger, it's because we misuse it. Anger is different from rage.
100%.
And it's like if anger, like happiness, like joy, like sadness, like every other emotion, does not want to be ignored. You listen to your anger. It, it doesn't care what you do. Really, it gets the validation it needs that it's been heard, people. All it wants to do is be heard. Guess what your depression wants?
Yeah.
The same damn thing. It doesn't take being a psychologist or a neurologist or a therapist of any kind to figure this stuff out. And going back to COVID and how I mean, COVID is the only time and the only thing to nullify and neuter New York City
Yep.
and put the city that never sleeps to sleep. And so let's get back to how we met at the Meadows, how I charmed you, because I'm always doing that. I can't help myself. It's just automatic. No, people, it's really not. And let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Meadows experience because they did not do everything right by for either of us and by either of us. I was talking to a friend last night at dinner and telling her that one of the major problems was the BHTs were mostly younger than us by a long shot. And that, at least for me, made it hard. And this is saying nothing of their qualifications, because they're all qualified. But it made it hard for me to really take them seriously and not treat them like authority when they were very much the ages of my peers. And that I grappled with a lot. I
So
think throughout my whole 45 stay, that pissed me off the most.
So I don't know Arizona law. Obviously, I practice in Washington, and I have worked involuntary. I have worked voluntary over the years and things of that nature. And so I don't know what the qualifications or specific things, happen for the behavioral health technicians in Arizona, but I can say in Washington is it's a very underpaid,
Yeah,
high stress situation, and you don't actually really need any qualifications whatsoever except for a high school diploma here.
yeah,
So
wow,
BHT, when you, again, I don't know what it's like for facilities that are on the level of the meadows when it comes to, I mean, like I work, like I said, for the state, so I'm always in state institutions, state funded institutions, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. But the the difference, like I said, for us is you don't have to have much in the way of qualifications. You are very severely underpaid, but also it's a very dangerous position. I've
yeah,
been
yeah,
on the floor in an involuntary facility, um, amongst other BHTs running classes or doing whatever I was doing at the time of my place in employment there. But it's not always the safest environment.
yeah,
There are things that the meadows do to make it a safer environment.
yeah,
Obviously, luggage is checked, our bodies are checked, we are trackable, we are these things. But I think that there's two. For me, what I saw in the BHTs is there is a level of desire, and this is what I think it really just comes
yeah,
back to, is that the human nature of wanting to do no harm, the human nature of wanting to be of support of your fellow peers. There are people in every profession who just go in for the paycheck or just go in for
yeah,
the title, or just go, I mean, there's bad apples in any kind of field. It's particularly unstabilizing though when you have bad apples in the field of mental and substance abuse,
yeah,
because those are very powerful things, because your rights have already been taken from you to a certain level. Like you said, you've been stripped of your comforts, you've been stripped of your sanity, you've been stripped of your core emotions, you're
yeah,
feeling very raw, you're feeling very vulnerable, you also perhaps may be detoxing, you may be, and you add all these things in, and then you come across somebody who has a sense of power and entitlement, who's going to say, no, you can't have your razor for 30 more seconds.
yeah, and
Now,
it,
that's a level of disrespect, my friend, that is a
yeah,
little bit different than any other kind out in most facilities,
yeah,
right? So, again, there's bad apples everywhere. I don't know the qualifications for Arizona. I'm not saying the Meadows has anybody employed under them that is not qualified, but I also
yeah,
know that it's not exactly a rocket scientist's job either, right? You're
yeah,
going around, you're checking boxes. You're saying this person's in their room, this person's at group, this person's at the pool, this person's accountable. And what they're really doing is they're doing it for reasons of legality. You need to be tracked so you're not doing something to yourself or someone else that would require a lawsuit.
yeah,
Okay. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're not everybody coming up to you saying, how are you doing today? Out of the kindness of their heart. They're saying, I see you. I see that you're in the cafeteria and you're about to do something fucking stupid, or I think you're going to do something stupid. So I'm going to come up to you and I'm going to have a nice conversation with you to distract you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it most of them were students making their way through college, which I totally appreciate. Uh, but it, like my therapist, Carla, she was excellent. Uh, and I didn't really care for the people above her, even though I liked them very much in the beginning. There was a incident uh, which I won't go into because it won't make for a great podcast after that, and it will distract us from uh, your story and what you got and didn't get out of the meadows, but there was a incident with another patient that really clouded my overall experience.
And your healing and your
Yeah,
ability to heal and your ability to heal in a safe way.
yeah, yeah, and I mean it took a lot in order to get to sleep there, and it still takes a lot for me to get to sleep. And the reason I bring this up is when empowerment is skewed towards one gender at the expense of the other gender there, no one wins, and it's not really empowerment that you're talking about.
No,
Politics wasn't discussed, but neither should the empowerment towards one group of people at the detriment of the other. And that was another thing that really fucking bothered me because it's like that's not professional. Neither is me coming in flaunting everything that I do and acting like hot shit. Uh, but I didn't do that.
no,
And I mean, could you imagine if I did? That would have pissed everyone off entirely, and I wouldn't have blamed them if it did, because that's just no way to be a healthy human.
right.
As one of my former friends said. And it is really troubling. I mean, I get having, well, if you have mostly one gender as the staff, either as the BHTs or the clinicians. That makes sense. I mean, mental health and psychological care vastly is a female dominated field. Whether that changes or not, it's unclear and it's basically unimportant at this time. But when female empowerment takes over, like the patriarchy, then no one wins.
Right.
Everyone is disempowered. Everyone's healing is impacted with toxicity, full stop. And like, I will stand by all of that till my dying day because that's truly what is the truth. I mean, and the Meadows isn't the only place to do this, and I'm not trying to hop or give them a bad name or reputation. I think they do incredible work. They just need to be a lot better and a lot more even killed. Because could you imagine if it was reversed? What
Well,
would you be saying?
that's you can ask a lot of those basic questions, right, of any facility. I mean, you could be more curious, you could be more engaged, you could have, and that's just, kind of the way, again, that these things roll out. I mean, I was in a unique position because of what I do and what I have, where I have worked and things like that. I mean, I knew a month before I went and sought help. So an immediate crisis didn't send me to the Meadows. I knew that I needed support. I knew that I was, drowning. And so I spent a month, researching facilities and arranging my life as an employee, as a mother, and the things that, to be able to take 30 days off, because that's no small thing in and of
No,
itself.
no.
And also, very acutely aware of my position and my knowledge. So, I mean, I really did believe in humbling myself and showing up as a peer and not as a clinician, because I knew showing up to a campus as a clinician is not going to do me or anyone around me any favors.
No, no.
And so making sure that I was in a space where I could be a peer and I could be present as a peer is, also a part of the prep work that went into me dedicating, 30 days to my physical and mental well-being. And if there's one thing I said, I would say hundreds of times to not only myself, but to various, people that were there was is the best thing you can do from any facility, but particularly the facility that we're sitting in right now, is to take from it what worked for you,
Yeah,
take from it what supported you, and leave the rest fucking behind. Because the
yeah,
reality is in any situation in life, not just this particular one, but moving forward, and harboring anger or resentment or frustration is not going to do you any good in your healing journey, in your recovery journey, and your, that now being said, that doesn't mean there isn't room for grievances. And
yeah,
that doesn't mean there isn't room for communication. And that doesn't mean, like you're saying, Keith, do fucking better.
yeah,
Set
yeah,
set the bar higher,
yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
And but that's how I approach every day of my life. Do
Yeah,
better, Lens. Set the bar higher, Lens. Because we all have room for that growth, right? We all have room for that. And I was really fortunate, to have clinicians on my team that were hands down the most
yeah,
exceptional human beings I've ever met. I also had clinicians on my team, though, that I had to advocate for, their removal. And
yeah,
nobody in a facility seeking treatment for trauma, substance use, whatever, suicidality, you name it, needs to be sitting in a facility advocating for themselves. That's not healthy. Then that's why I'm saying there is room to do better.
yeah,
There is room to be better.
yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with that. I really, really do, and I think it's very, very important to recognize that they could do better, and they, unfortunately, in some situations, more than others, chose not to. They they basically said, "Fuck it, it's our way or the highway,"
Right.
and we basically know your mental health better than you.
And that's absolutely the
Yeah,
worst thing. do is to walk into any situation with anybody and try to say, you know, their mental health better than you. I'm almost 50 years old. I've been walking with my mental health for, I'd, I'd comfortably say 42 years,
Yeah.
you know? So again, I can be humble, but I shouldn't have to be expected to advocate for my truth. And I shouldn't
Yeah.
have to be expected to advocate for my safety and my security. And I shouldn't be expected to have to advocate for my outcomes, right? I'm going to a place to seek solace and support from
Yeah.
a place of being exhausted from doing my own advocating, by being exhausted by being my own, you know, professor and my own banker and my own employer and all of the things that we all are on every single day in our own lives. You know, I mean, that's the idea of seeking, you know, this kind of support and whatnot. So I happen to know how to advocate for myself because, you know, I grew up in a position of needing to do so from the get-go. But that doesn't mean I want to have to do it when I'm trying to heal.
Yeah. And so let's move away from the meadows
Sure.
and talk about, in case there are any listeners or viewers that are like, hey, I want to become a crisis management specialist. I think,
We're part of a team, you know, because we are deployed in teams, right? We've got peers, we've got case managers, we've got MHPs. The way Washington works is they're very much into the team aspect. Is it does take a team to collectively bring their areas of expertise, their education, their
yeah,
experience, you know, and crisis again, you know, it's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of us. You know, what keeps it interesting, obviously, or you know, it's a 24/7 program, 365. It doesn't stop, it never takes a break.
no.
It never, you know, says this is too much. You know, that's not the way crisis works.
Yeah, no, but I want to know because I came up with this program, this show, when I was in my final semester of graduate school, and I really wanted to do this for a living, but I had to embrace something that I was just starting out
Mhm.
as. And it took a while for me to do that. And so, in case there are any listeners or viewers who want to start their journey in crisis management and not in bartending, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, what would be some action steps or advice you would give them as a experienced, seasoned crisis negotiator?
Well, I think things to keep in mind, yes, certainly are education, but that's not the hill you need to die on, right? Again, in Washington, we have Washington State Peer Support Specialists, and the criteria for that is that's exactly what you are. You're a peer. You're somebody with lived experience, either with substance use or mental health issues, that has have sobriety for 1 year, and you are looking to be, you know, of support to your fellow peers. So I don't want people to get stuck on dying on the hill of a graduate degree or a doctorate degree to be in this field, because that's not human services, really, at the end of the day.
No, no,
Human services comes from being a human. And if you're a human and you have, you know, the capacity, and I say that lightly, but, you know, you have to accept some things out the gate. I'll get the not so great things out of the way. You are never going to make $1 million. You are never going to retire a wealthy person if you go into social services. That's not where your, you know, your legacy is going to be. I'm sorry. And depending on to the extent of your comfortability. Working with crisis, like I said, is confronting demons on a lot of levels. Are you comfortable obtaining scabies? Are you comfortable obtaining bed bugs? Are you comfortable if someone vomits on you, spits on you, shits on you? Are you comfortable working in the trenches of the weather? Do you mind standing outside when it's cold, when it's sleeting, when it's windy? Um, Again, I'm kind of giving you the worst of the worst, but
Yeah.
I'm just be honest. These are questions you need to ask yourself. If you're a germaphobe, I don't recommend this field right away off the bat for you. I'd say, you know, do some work around, being a healthy person and keeping others safe. But harm reduction in and of itself and trauma informed care in and of itself is a very, very admirable and beautiful thing to work with. If you love variety, if you love not knowing what your office is going to look like every day, if you love supporting people to be their best selves, if you are able to do so in a compassionate yet boundary
Yeah.
setting way, then this could very much be for you.
So I like to think that both people with disabilities and people who have yet to experience or recognize their own limitations listen and watch this
Mhm.
program. I am under no delusion, none whatsoever, that either group or groups within those groups get the same things out of every episode.
Absolutely.
So, the last question I have for you, my friend, is as my guest, what do you hope that people with disabilities take away from this episode? And what do you hope that those who have yet to acknowledge, embrace, or recognize their own limitations, their own disabilities, take away from this episode?
Those are such poignant and brave and valid reasons, honestly, Keith. Without sounding like a complete bitch, if you don't know your own limitations at all, if you have zero insight into any kind of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, economical disability that you are living currently under, I would not recommend crisis for you
Yeah,
under any circumstances,
yeah,
period. And I mean that in the kindest, softest, gentlest way. But this is probably not a good place for you. As far as those people who have disabilities, who have insight into all of the labeled above potential disabilities that we all work and operate under, I welcome you. I welcome you into a field and to remain curious and to know that disabilities are human services, they are social services,
yeah,
they are all of those things. So I can't see a career in crisis that wouldn't suit you,
yeah,
to be honest with you. And again, I can't speak on every state that you have people listening into, but particularly in Washington, we have very, very, very plentiful laws that make accommodations and protect and support individual needs in the workplace, whether that's simply the lighting, migraines, whether that's being ADA compliant for every doorway, whether that's, but again, um, I don't want to say I know, because I don't firsthand know. I know my own limitations, but I can't speak on others. But I really don't think there's any career that you shouldn't be in if you are drawn to it, if it calls you, if it speaks to you, if it resonates with you, if there's a part of it that you can potentially see in the future being extinct. I mean, again, we're going back to very basic things here, but human services. Not a lot of people are going into this field. Not a lot of people want to be in this field. It's not just like teaching, just like, a lot of other professions, we're kind of a dying breed. AI can't not replace crisis. There is no way AI is ever going to be able to do what a crisis intervention specialist can do for a human. There's just no way.
Yeah,
So, in that sense, you've got job security for the rest of your life, um, for better or worse. But I do think, the capacity to love oneself and to love fellow humans is a rare gift.
very
And
well
so
said. Very,
if yeah, like I said, if you've got the ability to love yourself and to love others through foggy lenses, through broken glasses, you know, through your own recovery, to be able to support others on their own recovery journey, then I'd say, give it a try. What's the worst? You find out you don't like it. You find out it doesn't fit your schedule. It doesn't fit your budget. Well, hey, you know what you did? You did an amazing thing for a select few of people while you were there.
very well said, my friend. Say hi to your family for me, and I hope that we get to see each other outside of treatment
100%. Your
sometime.
home is a gallery. I'll be down there next week. It, I love art. And we can
Yeah,
talk about my days working at the Seattle Art Museum another time because I did have a brief instance there. But no, Keith, you're a gem of a human. And again, I don't pretend to have all the answers and I don't pretend to know why people are brought into my life. But one thing I do know is I've never questioned why.
well, thank you, my friend, and feel free to come back on anytime you want to have a chat. And thank you for making time on a holiday to speak with us. Best of luck.
Thank you, Keith. Have a beautiful day.
Bye.